Well, my friends, hello everybody. Yes, it is your DJ Crazy Tom, actually recording from home and about to give you Crazy Tom's NFL rankings after the second week of the NFL season. Now, I know everyone says it's week 2. I choose to call it differently. I call it round 2. We have 15 rounds to go, and it's already shaping up to be a rather interesting season. Now, of course, very predictable what the rankings were after the first week. But a couple of interesting things happened along the way in round 2. So I'll go ahead and give you the rankings. Of course, the Eagles, they were number 1 ranked last week, but of course their loss to Tampa Bay sends them down to shoot, basically in a game of eels and escalators. So I'm going to run down all 32 teams from 32 to number 1 to give you my rankings before we start the third round of the NFL season. So get ready to listen for your team, and you'll wonder about my reasonings for each one. So let's get underway. We'll make the first 2 very easily. The first 2 teams I mentioned did not move. Yes, 32nd, the Buffalo Bills. Embarrassed in the first half against the Carson City Chargers. It was so bad that one of their players decided to retire at halftime. Who does that? Unbelievable. That team is such a mess. They could be worse than last year's Cleveland Browns. Next week, doesn't get any easier. They travel to Minnesota. 31, of course, staying put, the Arizona Cardinals. Certainly the worst team in the NFC right now. Obviously didn't really put a good showing against the Redskins at home, and were the only team to call out sick in round 2 as they got shut out 34-0 by the Los Angeles Rams. But all may not be lost. This week the Cardinals are at home against the Chicago Bears, who came off a big Monday night win over Seattle. So that could be a game that goes into Arizona's advantage, so keep your eye on that. Only one other team didn't move, and we'll get back to it later. Meanwhile, we'll go to number 30, the New York Giants. Boy, they looked dreadful on Sunday night against the Cowboys. The Cowboys' defense dominated that game, and that offensive line is awful. Unfortunately, their center suffered a broken leg and ankle in the second half. It was just a god-awful injury. No question, he's done for the year. So that offensive line is really getting beat up in every which way possible. Plus, I'm sure the Eli Manning facial reaction will be the number 1 Halloween mask in New York this year. No question about it. So the Giants fall from number 24 to number 30. They have a chance to save their season a little bit because they play the Houston Texans next week in Houston. Number 29, only falling 1 spot, the Oakland Raiders. This is a team that should have beaten the Denver Broncos, but found a way to lose, go figure. Denver never loses in September at home. So the Raiders, who I think had a 12-0 lead at one point, they lose 20-19 on like a last 30-second field goal. Tough break for them, so they fall a spot. Doesn't get any easier. They travel to Miami next week. Number 28, and moving up a spot, the Detroit Lions. The Lions at least improved after their Monday night embarrassment at home against the Jets. Now, of course, I didn't think they were going to win against San Francisco anyway, but they did put up a relatively decent showing and only lost by 3. So that's why they get number 28, but unfortunately for them, they got the Patriots at home on Sunday night this weekend. Oh, lovely. Number 27, the only other team that didn't move in the countdown, the Houston Texans. Yes, doesn't help that Deshaun Watson has gotten sacked 10 times in 2 games. Boy, that's trouble for Houston's offensive line. And for Bill O'Brien, could he be actually overmatched as an NFL head coach? Could very well be. So a battle of 0-2 teams happen next week when Houston hosts the New York Giants in their home opener for 2018. Number 26, the Seattle Seahawks. I actually thought they were going to beat the Bears on Monday night, but it did not quite happen that way. So they fall from number 22 to 26, down 4 spots. What is good for them is they're in a very good situation next Sunday. Their home opener, 0-2, against the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys' offense has not been impressive. I'll talk about them later, but the Seattle Seahawks look to be in pretty good position for this coming Sunday. Number 25, and falling 9 spots, the Cleveland Browns. Yes, they are the Browns. Yes, they are paid to lose games. They went to Tony Romo's school of how to make money and basically be told what to do to earn that money. Well, the Browns do that exceptionally well as a team, as Tony Romo did as a Cowboys quarterback in late game situations. I tell you, the Browns, they just find every way to lose. They look like they were going to win, and then they find a way to miss a field goal, and then they give up a last-second field goal, have a chance to tie the game and miss that. They are the Browns. That's why they get paid to lose games. How they're 0-1-1, I still don't know. Number 24, the Pitifulsburg Steelers. They fall 7 spots. I mean, you would think they would have found a way to win against Kansas City, and they had to come from 21-0 down to tie the game before Kansas City got rolling again. This team could have been down 28-0, but you know how those reality TV referees are when they make phantom calls. They want to keep the big star team in the game and make it competitive. That's their job, not to call the game right. But Patrick Mahomes, oh my goodness, he's been crazy. But the steel curtain, good Lord. The steel curtain's been recycled so much, no wonder every team can run or pass around it. They are not the Steelers that we know of, and Mike Tomlin better hurry up and fix things. Next Monday night at Tampa Bay, that might be their chance to right the ship. Number 23, and down 5 spots, the New Orleans Saints. Probably the worst 1-1 team in the NFL right now. The Saints should be 0-2. I mean, think about that. Considering they lost to Tampa at home, they have another home game, and they had to wait till the final seconds and basically scripted self-destruction by the Cleveland Browns to even be 1-1. The Saints should be 0-2. They do not look good, and they better hurry up because they play in Atlanta next week. That's going to be a tough chore. Number 22, the Dallas Cowboys. They move up 8 spots from last week, but that's really only because they won, and the defense was the dominant force in their win. Now, I know the Giants scored 10 points in the final 2 minutes, but that game wasn't even close. The offense, still not impressive, and still not a juggernaut to say the least. I mean, Prescott to Austin for 64 yards, 3rd play of the game. I mean, you thought there'd be a lot more, but there really was not. It was basically more the defense that took over, and I don't like their situation next week when they have to travel to Seattle, who is a desperate 0-2 team. Number 21, the New York Jets. They also had the biggest drop of the week, losing 11 spots. The Jets, so impressive on Monday night, I thought they would have a reality check come Sunday against Miami, and they did, and they found a way to screw up the end of the first half to go along with that. So Miami escaped, but the Jets end up falling to number 21, and they have to travel to Cleveland next week actually on Thursday. This could be Cleveland's best chance to win against any team in the last 2.5 years. You know, they'll find a way to screw it up. So that's why the Jets are 21. Number 20, the Washington Redskins. They got such a nice start in Arizona, but then Andrew Luck comes visiting FedEx Field, and Andrew puts on a nice show, and the Redskins just couldn't get out of their own way. Rather disappointing for an interconference matchup, and that's why the Redskins fall 9 spots. It's not going to get much easier for the Redskins, though they stay at home. They face Green Bay next week. Number 19, the San Francisco 49ers. And you knew the 49ers were going to come out a little bit. They only make a 3-point jump. But considering Garoppolo kind of got back on track, the Lions gave him a little bit of a run, but Garoppolo needed to bounce back, and he did a nice job. I think they could compete for a playoff spot still. I mean, they're 1-1, but they have to travel to Kansas City for their home opener next week, and Patrick Mahomes' first home start. Boy, if the defense doesn't wake up here, this could be a long night, but we'll see. Number 18, we mentioned them very quickly, the Indianapolis Colts. They went from 26-18 and had an 8-point jump. The Colts, they shut down the Redskins. Their defense was a bit surprising. Their offensive line, still you can't trust them because Andrew Luck has put out 5 insurance policies to protect himself, and that may not even help. But for the Colts, nice win on the road. The problem, they're facing an angry Eagles team with the return of Carson Wentz on Sunday, so that's going to be a big chore for them next week. Number 17, the Carolina Panthers. I'm sure they're heavy hearts in the Carolinas, given what happened with Hurricane Florence, basically flooding the eastern half of the Carolinas from like Dillon, South Carolina on north. Sadly, 32 have perished so far, and I'm sure the Panthers are trying to give back in some way to the community. I'm sure their next home game, they will be able to do so. In fact, they do host the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. But for Carolina, they played a nice game, but Atlanta had more rest. and that's why they needed to right the ship and even their record out. So don't be surprised if there's a lot of giving in Charlotte on Sunday against a rested Bengals team. It's going to be an emotional night, an emotional day at Bank of America Stadium on Sunday, that's for sure. Number 16, the Baltimore Ravens. They impressed so many people with that huge win over Buffalo, but now it's looking like maybe Buffalo's that bad. And Baltimore got their comeuppance, finding themselves down 21-0 against Cincinnati and 28-7. They made a game of it, but still lost. Baltimore still, I think, has a chance to be in the hunt, but they have a chance to get back on track. They fell 8 spots from last week, and they host the Denver Broncos, who will be out on the road for the first time. We'll see how good Casey Keenum is. Number 15, the Carson City, a.k.a. Los Angeles Chargers. I call them Carson City because I refuse to call them L.A. after what happened last year. The Chargers, I think they had the biggest jump this week. They were number 25 last week. They are number 15 this week, thanks to that impressive performance in Buffalo. Now, they kind of took off the second half, but they really could because Phillip Rivers, he can still play. And I really think the Chargers may make a little bit of noise. But remember, they are prohibited from winning the AFC West because you cannot host a playoff game in a 28,000-seat stadium. That would kill the NFL for millions and millions of dollars, as I've said before. But they don't have far to go on the road for round 3. They play the Los Angeles Rams in the Coliseum. That is going to be a fun game next week. Number 14, the Tennessee Titans. They really haven't done too much if you think about it, but the Titans, of course, after their, shall we say, doubleheader loss to the Miami Dolphins, the weather played one game and then they actually played another. Well, Tennessee was able to bounce back, and Houston, well, they're Houston, and I think Tennessee's coach is much better than Houston's, and I'm sure the sports people in Houston can agree with that. And Mariota will find his way, even though Tennessee's not all together yet. They're better than they were, and there was a reason why they got to the divisional playoff last year. And that's why they moved up 9 spots this week. But next week, they play at Jacksonville. Going to be a big challenge for them. Number 13, the Chicago Bears. Very creative on offense, and what a difference their defense has made with Khalil Mack through 2 games. You realize he's done more in 2 games for the Bears by himself than the Oakland Raiders defense has done combined? That's a scary thought. Why did they trade him? They could pay Gruden all that money, but they couldn't pay Khalil Mack all that money? That makes absolutely no sense. And the Bears are beneficiary to it. That's why they move up 7. They have a tough chore, though, next week as they travel to Arizona. Short week, West Coast trip. That might be a trap game for them. We'll see. Number 12, the Atlanta Falcons. And you knew the Falcons were going to bounce back. They had to after a couple of extra days off against Carolina. Carolina, you have to remember, if their quarterback is their main running back, you're in trouble. And I know Cam Newton's electric. He took a nasty hit, unfortunately, in that game, which nobody deserved to take. But he got right back up, and the guy who did got ejected. But Atlanta, able to bounce back. Carolina, I think they'll still be a force, but I still don't think they're as good as the Saints or the Falcons. We'll see, though. But the Panthers, they drop a few spots. The Falcons, rather. They move up 7 spots, and they face the New Orleans Saints at home, back-to-back divisional games coming up on Sunday. Number 11, the New England Patriots. They take a 9-point fall. And I know you can say the heat and what have you, but these players are hydrated days beforehand, and they stay hydrated in preparation for the game. It was 97 degrees in Jacksonville. I mean, Florida got hit with an incredible heat wave, but Jacksonville made absolutely the most of it. And in that revenge game, and where they were like maybe 5 minutes from going to their first Super Bowl, which they're now 0-3 in conference championship games, they got their revenge. I thought New England could easily have been picked off there, and they were. So Jacksonville comes through with that. The Patriots, well, they are going to be an angry team going into Detroit for Sunday Night Football. That's why they're ranked number 11. Number 10, the other team that didn't succeed in Florida, the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, they were the number 1 team last week. They fall 9 spots to number 10. And the Eagles, well, they're going to be okay. Nick Foles didn't have his best game, but there were people falling left and right. And Mike Wallace, my goodness, terrible injury on his end, broken ankle, definitely going to be out for the year. Who are their deep threats? They need Alshon Jeffrey back quickly. They're getting Carson Wentz back next week against the Colts, but who's your deep threat? Aguilar? Maybe, but who else is going to step up? That's going to be a big question for them. They should be okay against the Colts, but they're going to have to really figure out who their deep threat's going to be, because that Minnesota game is going to turn out real big in a couple of weeks. So the Eagles are number 10. Number 9, speaking of Minnesota, the Vikings are number 9. They fall 5 spots because of that draw with the Green Bay Packers. And considering they twice, maybe 3 times had a chance to win that game, ended up missing field goals, they cut their kicker, and guess what? They signed Dan Bailey to replace him. Perfect opportunity for him to come in and kick field goals. Let's hope his groin's okay, because that could haunt him later. You just don't know. So the Vikings fall to number 9. They host the Buffalo Bills. That might be a team they beat up on next week. Number 8 is the Green Bay Packers, because the whole reason why it's the Packers is because, well, they had 2 games at home and Minnesota had every chance to win but couldn't do it, a.k.a. the Cleveland Browns. That's why I broke the tiebreaker with Pittsburgh this week. The Packers are still going to be good, but even though they moved up 5 spots to number 8, I still think that the Packers have something missing. Now they're going to go on the road to Washington, where they have a chance to actually win that game, but you just don't know where the Redskins are, just up and down. It'll be interesting to see. Number 7, the Denver Broncos. Yes, I'm going now to the 7 unbeaten teams who are left, and the Broncos are the first one because their first 2 games were at home. They don't lose at home in September. I mean, it's weak, very weak. They beat the Seahawks by 3 and the Raiders by 1. They're not very impressive, but they're 2-0. And give Case Keenum a lot of credit for that comeback against Oakland. Now they have to travel a bit to Baltimore to face a Ravens team, and that's not going to be an easy task for Keenum. Number 6, the Miami Dolphins. A matter-of-fact win in round 1, and I thought they were better than the Jets in the Sunday game. Got off to a 20-0 lead, even though they missed an extra point. The Jets did manage to come back, but it was basically the Jets making more mistakes than Miami did toward the end of the game. So the Dolphins have a 9-point jump from number 15 to number 6. For the Dolphins, and I didn't quite put down who they're playing. Oh, yeah, they are hosting the Oakland Raiders, so you know the Raiders are going to be wearing their home black uniforms on Sunday. No question about that. Number 5, the other Florida team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, there are actually 3 Florida teams, so this is the second one. The Buccaneers have been the most surprising yet impressive team in all of football. Ryan Fitzpatrick has thrown for over 400 yards in back-to-back games. Fitzmagic has struck. It took one play, 75 yards, twice, opening play of the game, to former Eagle Deshaun Jackson, and to O.J. Howard, the tight end, later on. The Eagles just couldn't stop him, and Tampa Bay just had the Eagles' number. Hottest game, ironically enough, in Tampa since 2006 against those same Philadelphia Eagles, who came back and looked like they were going to win that game in 2006 against Tampa 21-20. And then before Jake Elliott came Matt Bryant. 62-yard field goal final play, and Tampa won 23-21. That was the magic that day. But for Tampa Bay, let's see if they can keep it going on Monday night at home against Pittsburgh. That might be a tough chore because the Steelers are angry that they haven't won a game yet. Number 4, the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, they had a nice road win and they did well, but not tremendously great against the Baltimore Ravens back on Thursday night. For the Bengals, I mean, if they keep this up with A.J. Dalton and A.J. Green having the natural hat trick, scoring the first 3 touchdown receptions of the game, you would have to believe that he is going to be doubled probably the rest of the season. So Cincinnati needs to get something else going. They're an improved team, but come playoff time, that's a whole different story. But that's why the Bengals are number 4. Tough chore at Carolina in a pretty emotional situation for the Panthers next week, so the Bengals could be picked off. But for now, they move 3 spots up to number 4. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, what can you say? 10 touchdown passes. He's ridiculous. I mean, he's on a pace of throwing 80 touchdown passes. I don't think it's going to happen. But Mahomes, it's a good thing they got rid of Alex Smith, and I thought that was the right thing to do. Smith at least had a good opener against Washington, but now He's stabilizing. Mahomes is the real deal, and if the Hills keep catching the ball, Kansas City will run away with the AFC West. So that's why they moved from number 6 to number 3. They have their home opener against the 49ers on Sunday. Number 2, the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have been outright impressive. I mean, they had a nice road win, tough first half, but the second half in Oakland, they took control, and they basically forced the Cardinals into submission. Sam Bradford, how is he a quarterback for any team right now for the Cardinals? The Rams, they could be the odds-on favorite to win the NFC this year after those first 2 games. 34-0. Let's see if they keep that roll up against Carson City and the Chargers, where they make that cross-city trip on Sunday. That should be a fantastic game. And the number 1 team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, they deserve the number 1 ranking. Hey, you beat the defending how many time AFC champion Patriots, especially after the situation that occurred last year and the nicely impressive start against the Giants and their defense. Jacksonville right now is the team to beat in the AFC. Now, who says it's going to hold up? Because you know a lot of people are going to be gunning after them. And for Jacksonville, I think they should get a little bit more prime time respect than they're getting. Now, harder games are ahead. They have to go to London, play the defending champion Eagles, but that's further down the road. So for Jacksonville, they're going to have their work cut out for them. And another playoff team from that division, the Tennessee Titans, they will be on board next week coming to Jacksonville. So that is going to be a rather interesting predicament for everyone to be in. So that's the story for my NFC ranks after the second week. I'll recap from 32 to number 1 in groups of 8 from 32 on down. Bills, Cardinals, Giants, Raiders, Lions, Texans, Seahawks, Browns, Steelers, Saints, Cowboys, Jets, Redskins, 49ers, Colts, and Panthers. That's number 17. Then 16 on. Ravens, Chargers, Titans, Bears, Falcons, Patriots, Eagles, Vikings, Packers, Broncos, Dolphins, Buccaneers, Bengals, Chiefs, Rams, and Jaguars. So Jacksonville, the LA Rams, Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Tampa Bay, your top 5 respectively. Crazy Tom's round 2 rankings after 2 weeks of the NFL season. Well, that's it. I'm glad you got to join in on YouTube here. Remember, any comments, please leave them below the video. You can also visit me on my Facebook page, facebook.com/crazytom, or Twitter or iGram me at CrazyTomShow. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope you enjoy another wonderful week of football. We'll see you around this time next week, and we'll see what round 3 brings. I'm sure there'll be plenty of changes, and I'll be on top of it. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you next week.